I was basically put out of business by a bunch of other women. Madeleine Albright said it best when she said, when women do not support other women, there's a special place in hell for them. Thank you very much.
Okay, Katherine Desmond. Is this you? I think they're both working, Megan? Beautiful. Please state your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes, Katherine.
Thank you. My name's Katherine Desmond. I'm here as the director of a newly formed musicians workspace advocacy nonprofit known as Sound Museum Boston. Here as a representative of and as one of over 300 rent-paying Boston musician tenants and dozens of Boston small businesses and workspaces who were displaced by development this past year. I'm also the owner of a 38-year-long Boston woman and LGBTQ owned and run small business that was the provider for these musicians and renters that were displaced. My business, RSI, also known as the Sound Museum, was founded, listed, and documented as a vital cultural asset and an anchor institution of the Boston music community by the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, and its continuance, protection, and sustainability was documented as to be included in any negotiations with the city that involved redevelopment of the location we were renting. It was supposed to be part of the mitigation that our business and our tenants and their small businesses were provided for relocation, any temporary space necessary during relocation, and the continued sustainability of our anchor institution and 38-year-old Boston small business. A letter was drafted from Councilor Braden's office that said our business and our tenants and their businesses were supposed to be part of the negotiations to create solutions for affordable musician practice and workspace, but we were excluded from any meetings and any negotiations for 6 months while a third-party private organization owned by a City Hall employee negotiated on behalf of her private business with the city offices and other parties involved and negotiated the complete opposite of what was required and requested for our business, particularly our relocation and rebuilding, our temporary space during relocation, and the sustainability of our business. During these negotiations, there were supposed to be primary addresses. May I go on? They're supposed to primarily address the displacement of not only our anchor institution, our vital cultural asset, but the hundreds of musicians and small business clients and tenants of ours. But no protections were negotiated for any of these parties by the city, resulting in our company and over 350 tenants being evicted at the end of this month. I emailed all the parties and city offices constantly for months advocating for this to not happen and was ignored. In the end, during March to September 2022, the city and a private third party basically negotiated a free $20 million piece of real estate for the city that included the building of a carbon copy of my business and empowered a third-party City Hall employee's private company and the chief of MOAC to basically steal our life's work and hard-earned proprietary clients and hand them over to Kara Elliott-Ortega's publicly known intimate partner and our competitor's business, the record company. So in summary, what happened was a third-party private individual under the guise of a fake business that is not listed as a business in the city of Boston or listed by the Secretary of State as an actual business known as Art Stays Here, negotiated a carbon copy of our business for the city of Boston and negotiated temporary space for our tenants and clients, but ultimately was handed over to the romantic interest of the chief of the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture's competitive business for them to run instead of us. So now my business belongs to the city of Boston and is being run by the boyfriend of Kara, Elliott-Ortega. I find this displacement and this conflict of interest is a huge ethics violation and something I can't be silent about and need to bring to your attention. I've tried to bring this to the multiple offices' attentions by writing and calling multiple times and have received no response. So I'm appealing to all of you publicly to say that as a Boston native and someone who has devoted her entire life to a Boston-based small family business, I find this abhorrent, disgusting, and the city allowed this third-party private company that was not associated with my tenants, is not associated with the Boston music community, and was able to negotiate my business away from me and into the hands of the romantic interest of a chief officer of the mayor's offices. I should also add that I have shared documents from over 300 of my fellow tenants and clients, as well as there are copies of dozens of letters written to the city stating their desire to support this anger institution to the mayor's office and two other offices, that we as a community provider needed to be sustained. They wanted to stay Sound Museum tenants. They wanted to support the Sound Museum staying in business. And they also said they would go wherever the Sound Museum was relocated in the city of Boston. This was their choice by 350 people as their choice of mitigation for losing their workspace. Because of this displacement due to the building they all rented was sold. As a woman, I just want to say that all the parties involved were also women. And I find it really, really heartbreaking that I was basically put out of business by a bunch of other women. Madeleine Albright said it best when she said, when women do not support other women, there's a special place in hell for them. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the Young Jerks. Mike Crawford here. Got some special guests. I'm really excited to have them on. Unfortunately, it's not such a fun topic tonight, like our show often is not. But it's a good thing to have a place like this to discuss it. And that's what we do on the show. We share information. You heard it, just the kickoff. It's a lot of issues around. I'm just checking out my computer. We're doing an update. They're asking me to do some updates while I'm live. No, thank you. Hopefully my computer doesn't crash. That hasn't happened in a while. But tonight we're talking about the Sound Museum in Boston, which is closing or closed. We're going to find out. We got two great people. My computer just went down. Hopefully we're back up. I see a lot of people are just definitely checking us out. We're getting attacked right now by bots or something. I don't know what's going on. It's asking me to restart. I'm not going to restart. Not now. Let's bring up the guests. Now that my computer has been going crazy, let's just bring them up. We got Dave Tree here, hardcore legend from Boston, band Tree. I think people know Tree. He's also a full-time professional artist. He helps a lot of artists. He helped us a lot over the years. And my other buddy, Scott Matalon, a very similar type of person. He is also an artist. Both of these guys are business people. Both of them have helped us. I'm very honored to have them up. We have Scott Matalon and Dave Tree. We're going to talk about what's going on with the Sound Museum. We just opened up with Katherine Desmond, who is the owner of the Sound Museum Boston. And it's the top rehearsal space in Boston. It's the first place I really felt like I belonged in the artist community in Boston. Forever, for over 20 years, I hung out at that place. And I know a lot of artists and musicians and small business creative types. It's very similar. And these guys have been there for years. They're veterans of the local music scene. They've done shows and events, and they're well-respected people that we count on. So I figured I would hear from them. I want to hear directly from them about what's going on with the Sound Museum and from Sound Museum situation. So let's just bring them up right now. I wish we had a golf clap. I got to figure that out. Some kind of clap or loud applause for these guys because they're awesome. I'm really happy to have them on. You never know what could happen on the show tonight because these are long-time friends. Sometimes I get more nervous about the longtime friends versus like a new guest. Like those are the kind of wild cards. You don't know sometimes when you have someone that's new that doesn't know you on the show. And then you also have this thing with longtime friends because anything can happen and they're still going to be your friend. So especially with Dave Tree. Let's bring up the wild card. Dave Tree, what's up, man?
Up! Oh my God, it's good to see your face. It's been a long time. I'll clap. I'm gonna clap for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna clap for you, man.
I'm gonna clap for the Desmonds. I'm gonna clap for all the people at the Sound Museum for the last, 38 years, 32 years I've been there at least, yeah, it's a really, really sad situation when what to hear what Kathy just said. It's like I thought women were going to run this city way better than men, but I guess it's just the same thing. It's about money and it's about power and it's about who you can hook up and who you can't hook up. And the corruption wins, right? Nepotism still wins, right? Like, how am I going to get into this new space in Dorchester? I've already spoken out. They'll never let me in. It's just, it's a, it's like, yeah, it's absolutely not fair. What happened to the Desmonds is absolutely not fair. Mayor Wu should do something about it because it's on her watch. This is going to be laid at her feet. This is you. You've done this. So please, Mayor Wu, like you get the power to do something about it. Like you should listen to the Desmonds and listen to all of us in the community that have been there for decades. You're giving away our community to people that we don't know. Well, and we do know, actually. I know them. I know the people that try to give them away too. And like, I've never worked with them in this kind of capacity before. It's like I trust the Sound Museum. I trust the Desmonds because I've worked with them in this capacity for over 30 years. You know what I mean? So now the whole community's being split up, and we're such a fragile community, music and artists already. We're always struggling, we're always trying to help each other out. And now this all of a sudden, this is not helping each other out. This is like causing a major division in our community. It's destroying our community. It's destroying our businesses. Every single band is a small business, never mind the other small businesses and artists that rented these rooms. I know I started my silkscreen business at North Beacon, at the North Beacon Street building, because the room I got had a sink. And I'm like, oh, I can run a silkscreen shop in here. And I did for like 4 years. And I used to like have Christmas parties and just print stuff for people for free,
I was there. I went to a few of those. Those were great.
Right. Where's that community now?
Your art.
They're taking our community.
You bring Dave Prince on it. I love it.
Just got taken. And let me ask you this: like, so if the record company people are running the new building, right? Do they deserve to even make a profit off of that? They shouldn't. The building's been given them for real cheap. Like they should be able to make some money to maintain and run the building, but they should be making a profit off of that.
It was given to them along with like $250,000 from the city.
So what are they charging anybody anything for?
I think technically they're a nonprofit, and it's like the nonprofit dispensaries. You know how that works, Mike.
Oh yeah.
You can't disperse profits. So what? Everybody is a consultant. Everybody gets paid big salaries.
But the new place, the rooms are smaller and they cost more money. So who's making the money? Why is somebody making the money? Why is somebody making the money off of this?
I'm glad you brought that up because this, bottom line, I think some people are split in the community saying like, why should we have to support the Desmonds? I heard the word landlord used. I like what you said, Dave. They've been there. They've provided the service at the cheapest cost for 30 years. But and even beyond that, like it's
emotional risk.
Yeah, the long-term thing on the artists is the prices have gone up, and now there's less options in the marketplace. You don't have the Desmonds as an option anymore. So I think that's really bad for artists. Scott, what do you think about all this? Let's bring Scott more into this.
Well, competition is good. Competition is good for customers. It's good for the public because when you've got more than one company, they have to compete on price. It fosters innovation. It creates more competition. And what's happening is like, in a lot of ways across America, everyone's trying to privatize government functions by bringing them private. And this is the exact opposite. There's this whole like movement to like take this entire private industry and create a government sponsored monopoly. The Sound Museum was one of, there were 4, and with the closing of Charlestown, it'd be 3 independent providers, including the record company, who I believe is a nonprofit, 4 if you include, out in Malden. So as consumers, they provide a service to us bands and musicians, and, they were one of our choices. And now that choice has been taken away from us. And with the new building, when that goes up, the city's going to have a process. So they're probably going to have to give it the contract to a nonprofit to run. They stole their business. They stole their clients. So it was like, it started out as it was like, oh, it's sad the building got sold and the Sound Museum's going to have to move. And the city had stepped up in a big way. They said, they put out a letter, you know, on January 14th, the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, like Kathy was saying the Sound Museum was an anchor institution of the city of Boston, and it had to be moved and relocated. Okay. And that any space, this was the second thing, was any space temporary or permanent. And this is written right out. Any space temporary or permanent, you know, had to have a total assessment done for their, you know, longevity and their sustainability and even their growth. Okay. And then our city councilor, along with, wrote a letter that was signed by 6 other, you know, elected officials saying that this company that had bought the building, and that's something that I just want to make sure everybody really understands, because a lot of people think the Desmonds sold the building. They were tenants there. Okay. Old Harold Brown, you know, old guy was renting it to them, you know, at an affordable rate for a space like that, you know, like a third of what the going rate is around here in Alston. And he died, you know, and his kids took over the company and they sold the building for $50 million. You know, the Desmonds didn't get that $50 million. This is the third time that they've lost the building. You know, they lost the one for the Big Dig down in South Boston. The building was taken away by eminent domain. Then the building in Cambridge got
And the building in South Boston as well. There was one in
South. I
South.
was saying the one in South Boston was taken away for the Big Dig.
The Harrison Ave one was taken away for the Big Dig. There was another one on the other side on Broadway in South Boston. That was,
so this is the 4th building of theirs that they had a long-term lease on. Lease comes up, building gets sold, they gentrified.
And yet they've survived for 40 years and they've put their back into it. And, you know, people, you know, I've been a director on the Board of Trade. I'm president of Main Streets. I've been doing this for decades. You know, I've been a big proponent of small business. And I mean, anybody who's built a business, I don't care if it's a hot dog cart, okay, actually building and running and maintaining for decades, any business is, an unending 24-hour-a-day. It's a marathon. Okay, nobody who hasn't done it knows. Okay, so these people, imagine what they've been through collecting rent from hundreds of bands. You know,
from musicians, yeah.
Dealing with the craziness.
So it means the job never ends.
Right, and it never ends. It's 24/7. The phone's ringing. There's somebody's being stupid. There's something going on. There's some kind of crisis. It's 3:30 in the morning, and 2 bands just drove back from Connecticut, and they're having a fight over, you know, space to move their shit in. I mean, God knows what they put up with. God bless them for it. But, you know, the city and the city councilor said that this company, the proponent, IQHQ, that bought the property, had to work with the Sound Museum. I got these documents. They're all public. And at
that's
first,
what kills me. That's what kills me. I want to drill down on that, Scott, because I'm glad you brought that up. You brought that up a couple times. They changed it, like it was in writing. You've shown it to me. I've seen it.
It was in writing.
It was in writing. They offered something. And then it's a bait and switch. That's what the city did to the Desmonds. They did a bait and switch.
Well,
it's kind of like this.
It's kind of. See, at first, the company said, that's great. We're going to do that January 18th, January 24th. They had their big public IAG meetings with the BPDA. It's an Article 80 process. Everyone, you know, doing these developments has to go through them for, you know, community mitigation, everything, traffic, open space, trees, or anything that gets involved. So the number one stakeholder in this building is the Sound Museum, and they keep saying 300-400 tenants. You know, honestly, that's probably like the number of paying tenants there are. There's probably like 1,000 people going through there at any time. You know, you think about the course of a year and whatnot.
People sharing spaces too.
Sharing spaces, 3-4 bands in a room.
Exactly.
You know, so, you know, they have to be low cost. They have to be in these industrial spaces. So this company said they were going to move them, and they hired a realtor, they hired an architect, they hired contractors, and they found a building. It was right on Route 1 in West Roxbury, which is still in the city Boston limits. So, you know, that's just the way it goes. It's all that's left that's affordable, you know. So they were okay with it, and the city seemed okay with it, and everybody was going along fine. And then this Dorchester-based Art Stays Here group decided to advocate that they wanted zero net loss of rehearsal spaces in Alston. So they were gonna, they got together with our city councilor. They were advocating, saying like we shouldn't lose any spaces in Alston because it's Alston Rock City, and Alston itself is a cultural center. So it became Alston versus the rest of Boston. Wasn't about the greater Boston music scene. 500 musicians in the Sound Museum, 75% of them.
The city of Boston could
they're
have
not even from Boston.
Could have solved that problem
right.
by providing a place themselves without destroying the IQHQ deal that they had with the with the Desmonds with Roxbury.
Right.
But instead, they're like, we're going to move it over to Alston, and like they're going to use that deal that was going to go to West Roxbury instead for the Alston one. So why wouldn't the Desmonds still be involved?
Because it was negotiated in secret. Art Stays Here decided that it was their agenda. They had they tried to form a tenants association, and by it failed. There was like 16 people there, and then it just became Art Stays Here, which is
how many people from our space?
Right,
Not many.
It's
Two.
Out of the 16 people, 17 people that went to the first meeting, if you don't
three.
include the 3 people who were there to speak, there were 17 of us. Like at least 4 of us were talking about working together with the Sound Museum, working together. And Amy and them, they were like, no, we are accused of causing trouble and coming there just to make speeches, and that the Desmonds could get on board with their program. But they weren't willing to work with the Desmonds, and they were fighting, and Amy was fighting with Kathy, and Kathy's fighting with Amy, and they just couldn't find any middle ground. So what happened is these people caused a problem, and a big PR problem for this big company that's trying to get their permits to build their biolab. Right, and then they presented themselves as the solution, and they negotiated to buy this building, and then give it to her friend at the mayor's office of Arts and Culture, because they're the ones that are going to run this building. Now, the thing is, Amy, runs from Art Stays Here. She's a city employee, and then she provides publicity services to the mayor's office of Arts and Culture. So they're her client, right? And then it's their office of Arts and Culture that ends up, they're going to get this $20 million building. It's $18 million. You add in tax and everything, and then they're going to fit it out, and they're going to build it out, and they're going to give it to the city. It's the largest single mitigation in the history of Boston from a developer. Usually, it's a park and $20,000 here and some money for the homeless, right?
We've been dying for this kind of break too. We've been dying as artists and musicians. Like, please can we get a break here? Please can we get a break, and then it got taken away from us.
Right.
Literally taken away.
Because now
why wouldn't the Sound Museum be part of the new one in Alston? If the intent was just to have the building, the practice building, stay in Alston, why would it change for who's running it?
Right. So
why would it change unless there was secret negotiations and things were just changed over? So people
they weren't even part of the equation. They weren't even part of the equation.
So the problem is intent, right? If the intent was to keep it here in Alston, we could have kept it here in Alston, and it could have still been worked as a Sound Museum.
Right.
But if that's not the intent, the intent is to take their business away from them and give it literally to somebody else who has not put the investment in, who hasn't put the years in, hadn't created the community, hadn't created the relationships, all of a sudden just inherits all this stuff. And now they're going to profit off that, and they're giving money on top of that. They shouldn't be able to make any money off of that. Right. Everyone should be appalled.
From the beginning. From the beginning, they created a split. They kept talking about the tenants of the Sound Museum and calling the Sound Museum a landlord. I'm a business owner. The Sound Museum was the tenant. They took the risk and the responsibility for tens of millions of dollars worth of leases, $10,000 plus electric bill every month, collecting the rent, the insurance, the responsibility, the security, everything that goes into just maintaining and running that place. And there was just a concerted effort to change, it was save the musicians, but destroy the Sound Museum. It was the whole purpose was to destroy this.
I'm glad you brought that up. They weren't. You can't be a landlord if you don't own land. That they weren't the landlord. We have some good comments. Let's.
Des only cares about the bottom line. All right.
Right.
I run a business. I care about the bottom line. It's the profit margin that you're making the money. The bottom line is just keep yourself.
Keep it alive. Yeah.
profit
So,
margin.
I would-
right?
Right. And I read that when I read
Where's
that
the money
line.
going now?
When I read that line, in the newspaper, and Jim was like,
Blew my head.
he
I'm
said,
like, what?
I was like, you don't even know where the bottom line is, dude, in a business like that. Okay. I run a business. People have no fucking idea where the bottom line really is. And these guys are renting spaces for $500 a month. They're not driving around in Lamborghinis. They're not vacationing in Hawaii. They're not wearing rings on their fingers. Okay. For 40 years of hard work, they did okay for themselves. They're about to hand that business over to their kids, Casey and Mary and Willie and all of them. You build something, then you want to pass it along and see it go. These people just, from the very beginning, the Sound Museum, it just weren't part of the equation. So they get this building and it's given to the city. So now it has to go through this whole process. And the idea is they're saving it in Austin, but they're not saving the Sound Museum. Okay.
Or the community that the Sound Museum created.
Right.
You know what
Exactly.
I mean? And then they delivered like
let me. I want to take.
It was like
Scott,
a coup de grace. Yeah.
I want to take a quick stop for a second. We have a lot of comments. A lot of people listening right now. So I want to thank all our listeners. I want to post some of the comments, get some of the questions out. Michael Driscoll writes, "I can't believe this is happening." Carmelita, my girl, the best woman around, she wrote, "You froze for a second, but you guys are back up. Thank God we're still kicking live." Julie wrote, "Oh my God, I'm shocked." Another person wrote, "For shame of the city and the mayor." And this is important. I want to bring this one up. Is Katherine Desmond wrote, she's listening. She wrote carbon copy of the Sound Museum. You guys have any comments on?
Yeah. They when they found that building, they worked with their architects. They went through and shared all their trade knowledge. Okay. Every business is
That's
different.
like stealing my song
Right.
and playing it back to me and going, "No, it's mine.
Right.
It's my song now. I played it."
Right. Every business is different. Every business is flavored by the owners. I have a tattoo shop. There's a tattoo shop up the street. We're different. Okay. We're different than the other.
Not exact same song.
Right.
It's not the exact same tattoo.
And there's 2 other tattoo shops down the block. And then we're different from them. And we're all different than the ones in Brighton. It's why the Sound Museum was different than other places. Okay. It was their business. Okay. And the musicians, we were their customers. Okay. So then when they got this building, there's going to be a few years in between. Okay, which is now not what the city had said. Okay, and the city turned around and said, "Oh, okay, here's the thing. This was great." In December, Amy, after this was announced, Amy posted, Art Stays Here, posted that, we've been advocating for zero net loss space, and we've been working with the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture throughout this entire process. And 2 days later in WBUR, Cara Elliott-Ortega, the head of Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, she's quoted as saying, "We have no idea why IQHQ changed their mind and decided to donate a building.
Nope.
But congratulations to everybody who got away with it.
Good for you."
Then they get this temporary space in
But
Dorchester,
and
then
the Boston Record Company looks better on paper for running the Sound Museum than the Sound Museum,
they had an
who actually
essay.
ran it for almost 4 decades.
Right. So even though the
Better
mayor's
on
office
paper,
had said,
but not on reality.
even though the mayor's office said any space, temporary or permanent,
better on
okay,
paper.
they end up having an essay contest. I have the applications, like 4 questions.
Essay question.
It's an essay question contest. And
They look better in the essay. They wrote a better essay.
Right. They wrote a better essay. So they're all
They're
their
actually
clients,
doing the job for 38 years. They
Right.
wrote
And
a better essay. Took them 20 minutes.
Right. And they,
The
there's-
38 years
there
of
shoulda-
building relationships, creating a community, helping support bands. I mean, like the Desmonds supported me. I mean, I would come home from tour for 3 months and hadn't paid the rent, and we're like hoping to God that the key works, and the key would work, and there would be a note, call me, and I call Dad's like, "We're back, and we have like some money, and like we'll pay you," and he'd be like, "Okay, we'll work it out," and it was like, are these new corporate guys going to be like that? They got everything just handed to them. They literally don't know the value of the dollar, because when you get handed money, You don't know what, you don't really,
Yeah.
you didn't work for it.
They got
You
given
did
their-
not work for it. You shouldn't have that money. You shouldn't be making a goddamn dollar off it.
Right. They
Yep.
got given all their clients. They got given this temporary space, and then they got given $250,000. And more than that, they got given access to the space for 2 weeks before anybody else saw it. So they already had a leg up on it. So
Dude, you should see them moving.
everybody's-
I hear them complaining about moving gear yesterday. I almost went up there to paint murals, and I wish I did, because I would have bopped right into them. Amy and Jim, I would have bopped right into them moving their gear, and I would have been like, "What's up?" You know, like they asked to talk to me, and I'm like, "Okay, here's my number. Call me."
right. And now the city,
Phone never rang.
and now the city's gotten behind all this. Mayor Wu's like congratulating them, and Amy's got a promotion, and they just had an Art Stays Here day.
So what's the intent? Was
And-
the intent to just stay in Alston? Or was the intent for personal glory, advancement, and maybe some of this?
Yeah, it was both.
Some of this.
Yeah.
This is my
Nepotism
Yeah.
reigns supreme, and I'll tell you something. My whole life has been beat into me. You cannot do a good thing if you're committing acts of injustice. Okay, the ends do not justify the means. Okay,
Big though.
I don't care like at what level it is, from the biggest to the smallest. There were major acts of injustice committed. Everything that happened was against what the city said. Everything that happened was, I think it was immoral. It was unethical. I think some of it was illegal. Okay. There's ethics with helping friends and doing things that are going to help yourself. And make no mistake, this is definitely helping them. It's helping the people involved. Amy's client is MOAC. Now MOAC's got an $18 million building, and she's going to provide publicity. She's just been promoted. She's a communications director. She's definitely benefited from this. Then, they have this committee to decide who's going to run this temporary space. The committee is chaired by Elliott-Ortega from the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture.
But she recused herself.
Yeah, she recused herself.
But all her friends know who she's dating.
Yeah, all her friends give it to her boyfriend, who had access 2 weeks before.
They should recuse everyone that
Right.
knows her and her boyfriend, and then that should be the recuse, right?
Right. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. That's exactly right.
Was
Lauren.
anybody from anybody from the Sound Museum community there?
Right. And that's the other thing is,
Hey, everything's done in Zoom meetings. Can we just have a regular meeting in person, please? Can we just all meet in person so we can all just talk in person instead of hiding behind this technology? I hate this technology.
I love it, Dave. I agree. I want to just cut in for a quick second. I'm going to read a couple more comments. Lauren Pespisa just wrote, "The city of Boston supporting local art is good, but it wasn't supposed to happen this way. This is real support." She's laughing about the essay contest. Katherine Desmond just typed in, "They needed to separate our tenant from us." I want to ask you both, because we've mentioned Michelle Wu. We've mentioned, I think, the city council, Liz Breeden. Dave Tree, you were, I know that we did a video, like, I don't know.
When I was running for mayor way back
yeah. Mayor Menino, I think, it was a Mayor Menino era video. It was Dave Tree for Mayor of Boston. One of the first things you brought up was free tea, which is Michelle Wu's like big platform. Do you have any hope that Michelle Wu will do anything on this?
I think public transportation.
You're good. I can hear you. Keep talking. Oh, we did lose you for a second.
Yeah. Hang on.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I banged something.
Yeah.
There you go. Now we can hear you. It's back.
He went and slammed. He punched my mouse.
So what was that?
He's getting so excited. So Michelle Wu,
So now
Liz
she's
Breeden,
doubled
any
She's
hope
taking
with
my
that?
ideas. She's taking my ideas and running for mayor. Not only should it be free and run 24 hours, like an adult city. We should be an adult city here, right? It should run for 24 hours. It should be extended, and it should run on solar energy.
Right. But
It can and will do that.
The worst part is that,
in my lifetime.
Boston is famous for its cronyism and its nepotism. I mean, it's just famous. You go out to LA, they know about Boston.
And we're also famous for destroying our own music and art scene.
Right,
And that's exactly what they're doing.
What is that like? Oh no, Boston's not. It's not a big college town, right? So but yet this new administration appears, for all the good they're trying to do, is like, it's the same cronyism and the same nepotism. It's like just a different group of people. You know, they've come in and they're all like at the hog's trough. That's just, they're all at the trough.
Meet the new boss.
Same as the old boss. And it's worse in some ways. And it's just like more open and brazen. It's hard to believe. It's like
it's hard to criticize without being called a penis.
Yeah, it's like you cross this area where like it was one thing, you know, where it was, you know, where it started, and it became another, and it just kept getting more unbelievable, you know. And I took this to the board at Main Streets, and as we're describing it, and we're saying, okay, and then, you know, but this committee's run by Elliott-Ortega, and then it's going back, and then her boyfriend got it. My boy, they had to stop me. They were like, dude, this isn't true. This is all rumors. I'm like, no, this is confirmed. This is confirmed information. Like my board was sitting there like with their mouths open. They couldn't believe what they were hearing, you know. And we're a business organization that also supports the arts. You know, you can't support the arts if you don't support the businesses of the arts. Like all the clubs are gone, right? O'Brien's is next.
I was gonna say boycott Boston. I've been saying like artists and musicians, just boycott Boston. But where is there to boycott? The Midway? Please don't boycott the Midway. Everything else
the independent clubs.
Everything else is a corporate gig, though. Where else can I play?
All the local music clubs are gone. We were traveling out to Haverhill and Connecticut.
Can I play Fenway Park? Is that corporate?
Yeah. You know, we were driving these huge distances. So, like, you know, what are they going to do when, you know, O'Brien's, our whole property is for sale with Stingray, O'Brien's, the parking lot, the city, the studio behind us, Mad Oak. It's all up for sale. It's going to be gone. Are they going to ask the developers to buy us a city-run punk rock club? I mean, like, where does it end and where's the precedent going? Better that you create, you know, like they have affordable housing. We need affordable retail. We need affordable business space for arts-based businesses, not to create state-run monopolies. So, like Lawrence said, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. It's bad economics.
Beg the city.
Bad
Beg
policy.
the city for help.
Right. 350 of the musicians at the Sound Museum
Marty Walsh
signed.
And Joyce Linehan.
We all signed a document saying, we all signed surveys. We all sent in letters. Most of them, and the entire document of our survey, it's all been suppressed. So, you know, it starts to look like the Kennedy assassination, where everybody's covering their ass, and it looks like they were all working together, but it really was like three different groups of people all out for themselves. Everyone's out for themselves, so nobody gets together and says, hang on, let's do the right thing.
I'm out for us. I've always been out for us. You know me.
Let's do the right thing.
I'm going to still screen Christmas presents for you every year as long as the building's there. And when they take the building away, my ghost will be still screening in that new bio lab Christmas presents.
You know.
And they won't even want them. They won't need them, and they won't deserve them.
So,
do you think there's any hope of fixing this? Dave, you suggested to one of the media companies that Mayor Wu should find another building for the Desmond family.
We should just give them the building that she just got.
Yeah, we're asking them to reopen the mitigation.
Maybe she should talk to Harvard about all the land that they just got for tax-free in Austin. Right. Tax-free under front companies. Maybe we should talk to them. Maybe we should get a building down there too with all that space.
Well, do you think they will? Do you think they will? Do you think
I've been trying to shame Harvard for 10 years. So if Mayor Wu takes credit for that.
This is a really important thing. The building that IQHQ bought, that they're supposed to give to the city to become the new rehearsal spaces, it's all dependent on whether or not their biolab gets approved. If their biolab doesn't get approved, they're not going to give the building to the city. Okay. Now, you know,
quid pro quo.
If the Sound Museum had been allowed to use the temporary space that was made for all the musicians and all the music.
Now, if you look into the Bidens, I'm going to give you those missiles.
Hang on.
Yeah, hold on, Dave.
Jesus, the Bidens. Jesus.
I'm going to give you the missiles, Mr. Ukrainian president.
They could have had a couple of years to try and regroup and do something with their business and help it survive. And the city could have helped them. Okay, but they didn't. And now, why would this company spend $18 million if they haven't been approved? Are they just so rich, or did they receive like behind the scenes nod and a wink that like, don't worry about it. Your biolab, your $750 million level 4 biolab, they're not even going to run their biolab. They're renting it out to other people. They're just a real estate agent. They're just a landlord.
Exactly.
Okay,
And
the
all
sound
that good
museum,
intentions
they're
that they had for the
musicians.
music scene in Boston, and all the good intentions they had for the sound museum, down the toilet.
Right. There wasn't really best intentions for the sound museum. It was the best intentions for themselves, which was to do what the city wanted, you know. So
Well,
yeah,
they were
here,
going to give a space to the Desmonds. They were going to like help us.
and let's answer
them
Carmelita's question, because there's
Yeah,
a
she's
site-
got a question.
there's
Karma has a
site on-
question. Are the bands organizing with the Desmonds around this? Have they been part of the United Voice behind exposing what went wrong here and fixing it?
Some of them
As of
have,
right
and
now.
go to the sound museum, go savethesoundmuseum.com. Okay, if you're out there listening, go to savethesoundmuseum.com, fill out the petition, get the links. There's a lot of information there. You can write emails to mayor@boston.gov. You can write emails to the mayor's office of arts and culture. Yeah, savethesoundmuseum.com. Just go to www.savethesoundmuseum.com, you know. And there's a whole site up there, but you know, we have to make our voices heard, because what's been going on is just wrong. It's just an
You gotta have
injustice.
justice and righteousness.
Yeah,
heard.
the mayor
I mean,
of
like,
Stoll
what's fair
Fist-
is fair, and what's not fair, it's not fair. And if it's not fair, let it be heard. If it's not fair, like, you can't hide. Don't
Yeah, you know, and like,
pretend like you're saving us and kicking us down. Like,
right, and they're
how am
doubling
I
down.
gonna get? Who gets into these new buildings? How selective is it? Is it a
Exactly.
lottery? It's not a lottery, because people are moving in without being picked out of a lottery already.
Right,
So it's like
it's not
it's like the idea
transparent.
that it's like, oh, like we're just gonna have a random lottery and whoever gets picked gets picked. No. It's like they're picking
It's-
who they want and who they want.
It's
because
not a
that's
transparent
that.
process. We don't know who is on the negotiations. We don't know who is at the table.
Positively.
We don't know for the building and the whole derailing of everything the city wanted out of this Article 80 process, which is by law a public process. Okay, then you know we don't know who was really on that committee. They said, you know, one sound museum tenant. Out of 500 musicians, there was one sound museum tenant,
Got
handpicked,
bought up
unknown
with the
person.
space. They'll get a new space.
It wasn't
Come be our
transparent.
puppet.
It wasn't transparent. Even the decision just to have the committee, you know, how was that decision arrived at? How was the decision arrived at of who to put on this committee? Why was it MASSCreative if Kara had and they had
What were the
conflict of
essay
interest?
questions? I want to know.
I've got them. I'll give them to you.
Could I have written a good essay and actually won that new building?
Yeah. I wonder.
would've been
I
I would
want
have
to
done
know
it
if they got leaked. Did they get leaked?
Made a
You had to be
if
invited.
Dave Tree made
You
it,
had to be
I
invited.
wouldn't- I'm not there to make
they
like a
picked.
profit off you people. I'm there to like provide a service, just like if I was going to make your silk screen shirts, I need to get paid for my work, but I don't need to be exploitive, right? No one needs to be
Right.
taken advantage of.
That's what competition is good, because if someone's charging too much, you go to their competition. But like Kathy just posted there, you know, 350 people signed a petition saying they wanted to, and 80% of them said they wanted to move with the sound museum, 78%, right? And then they have and the city requested this petition, this survey done, and then it's not in the public record. If you go to the BPDA website, they did this huge document dump, and our voices are not in there. Okay, and then there's all sorts of letters that were left out of there, all the support from these musicians. So, you know, one thing musicians are is loud. So, you know, I know it sucks because nobody likes to be part of a problem and make a scene or whatever, but you have to say to your elected officials, they don't listen to anything else. You got to be vocal. They're running a PR campaign that art stays here, and we're having art stays here day, and yay for us, and we're so great. Like, we're going to forget what just happened. And, you know, people have a short memory. So we have to be on this. 160 people signed a petition saying, give this temporary space to the Sound Museum. That got ignored. Everything that was said, even Liz Breeden's first letter, every single thing that was said was done against it. And then the city just said, oh, this is great.
How's it kept out of the record, though? How do they keep it?
Well, that's why this needs to be investigated at the state level or the federal level, because the city.
How about
can't
the AG?
investigate itself.
How about the Attorney General? How about you know? I just
I
also
filed a
want.
complaint. I filed a complaint
You
with
did.
the State Ethics Commission. I filed a complaint with the Attorney General. I've got one going into the FBI.
Have you heard back at all from any of them?
Yeah, it takes a while. They have to,
Yeah.
you know, every complaint they get, they have to go through, and then they have to investigate, and they have to actually look at it. And the city's been investigated before and lost. I remember the late 80s with inspectional services were shaking people down. They were shaking the Desmonds down, going in and making up, like infractions and then shaking them down. The FBI came in and like put a whole bunch of people in jail and all that shit because the city can't investigate itself. They're not able to. That's why you've got outside agencies. That's why, so there's so many conflicts of interest, and it's such a problem here in Boston.
Conflicts of interest.
What does Liz Breeden say, Scott? Because I know that you're Mr. Small Business. I want people to know Dave Tree is like the rockin' Dave. People know Tree. He knows his artwork. You're a professional artist. Scott, you're also an artist, but you're also a small business guy. Both of you guys are small business guys. You guys have helped, as well as the Desmonds. Like the Desmonds, all three of you guys, Dave Tree, Scott Matalon, the Desmonds have helped this show. This little show. We got help. Yeah, we've gotten help. We started this show with the Desmonds. What does Liz Breeden say to you, Scott, when you talk to her? Because I guarantee you must see her.
Okay, that's a great question because, I'm president of Main Streets. And when, Main Street started looking at this, we very officially, we had a board vote. Everybody said, okay, let's get some more information. And even though we work with Liz Breeden's office all the time, our executive director, Alex, he works with their office all the time on a million things, garbage, graffiti, rats, a billion things, safety issues, health issues. We sent an email. I had asked Alex to send an email asking if we could speak about this incredibly important thing going on. It was during the blackout period before the announcement of the new building. But, it was like for 11 months, the Sound Museum thought they were being moved until like November 1st. So this was probably like, I don't know, I forget if this was like July or something like that. We sent an email to Liz Breeden's office asking to have a conversation. And her office wrote back that she was too busy to speak with Austin Village Main Streets. Now, Austin Village Main Streets is a 30-year-old organization. It's one of 22 main streets in the city of Boston, chartered out of the mayor's office. We're under contract with the city of Boston, okay? Together, we're supposed to look after the whole entire city, not just the businesses, but the neighborhoods and the cultural and artistic vitality and the community. That's organization, Austin Village Main Street. It's all residents and business owners and their employees in Austin. We are her constituents. Okay. And she told us by email that we're too busy to talk to us. So we couldn't believe it. So I asked Alex, I said, send another email. Okay. I can't believe it. Send another email saying, no, this is important. We really need to speak to the counselor. And we got an email back saying we could talk to one of her aides. So we did. And we spoke to her aide, and her aide listened to what we had to say. Basically, she completely ignored it and repeated back Amy's plan that they were going to go for zero net loss of rehearsal spaces in Austin, even if it meant building the spaces inside the bio lab itself, which is ridiculous for two reasons. One, you can't have rehearsal spaces in a bio lab. And number two, between tearing the building down, cleaning up the site, building a new building, all the permits, 3 years before it would even open up, and where would everybody be? But like Kathy says, she's refused to speak to her since day one. It's really weird because when I first met Liz, I was a big supporter, and I was and now I don't know what to say.
Was she at the street fair?
She's been everywhere. She was at the Taste of Austin, and all of a sudden it's
these are your events.
She comes to all of these events, and yet, we can't talk to her. So it's just really surprising to me. And it put me in a really bad position. And I feel odd because I go to the Board of Trade meetings and there, she's there. And it's like, I'm supposed to corner her. I'm supposed to start haranguing her like some crazy person.
Do you have to go to her office and ask her to sit down?
That's the next question. That's the next question. Because Carmelita, Lauren Pespiza's watching. She said, Liz's milk toast. Carmelita's asking, you need more than a petition, direct action, as in protest in front of the officials, offices and home, including the mayor. What do you think about doing something like that?
Well, let's talk about the protest that they had, okay? Because,
in front of Mayor Wizard?
IQHQ, they had always said, that they were going to move the Sound Museum. They were going to get moving trucks. There wasn't going to be any interruption in service, okay, to the musicians. And then they came out on November 1st and announced that they were going to give this building. And in July, they wrote a letter saying that they were looking into space in Austin. And if they had to, they'd get temporary space themselves. And they would make sure that they said the Sound Museum could stay in their building until the temporary space was available. And then on November 1st, IQHQ announced this building was being purchased, and it came with an eviction notice for January 31st. So this other group of tenants, actual tenants of the Sound Museum, the PSL Web, the People's Social Liberal Party, they had a protest because they wanted more time, to be in the building. So they did a protest, about 100 people marching around with signs. But here's the really weird, messed up thing. This was like in early January, was the one of the women who organized it, Mandy, she gets an email from Kara Elliott-Ortega about a day or two before this protest that says she wants to speak to her. So Mandy calls up Kara, and she's got her notepad open. She's taking notes, and Kara advises her and her group to occupy the building. Okay, now this is a woman who just got an $18 million building promised to her department through her friends from this company. Why would she
that would make the Desmonds look
call?
Really bad. Also,
right.
Now there's an occupation of the building. And
right. It was
these musicians don't deserve anything.
It was like a trap. Right, it was like
it was a setup.
It was a setup, right? Because the Desmonds would get penalized for not leaving the building. Those musicians would probably get arrested for trespassing. Their shit would get seized, and that's what the news would be about. It wouldn't be about. So it was such a sleazy backroom kind of move.
That the public has for us would go away.
I know, it's unbelievable. So
it would just go away because we don't deserve it.
When I spoke at that rally, I was like, don't do this. It's a trap.
Things.
You'll be used. You're being used. The musicians, we've been used. We've been traded around like pawns, okay?
I spoke at that rally, and I advised them that was the worst idea, that they were actually playing into their hands, and that they were suckers to do so.
No one did it.
Right. We've been taught.
Did anyone do that? Did anyone do it? No.
No, they didn't. They were smart.
I told them it was stupid, and it was. We explained to them
and then
on the microphone what's happening.
And then, okay, so IQHQ relents. They make an announcement on Monday that says, "Oh, we're going to give you an extra month, so this other space can be open." But they didn't talk to the Desmonds about it. They didn't talk to the Sound Museum about it. Half of us have moved out. They're on the hook for not for the rent, but they're on the hook for
safety of the building.
Right. They need more security people,
electricity,
there, insurance, electricity, utilities.
And who else is advocating for violence there now, but that we don't even know about? How many phone calls are being like, "Hey, you guys should come do that and just occupy that building again, just for for the righteousness of the musicians," and then people would do it on totally misguided principles, and then play right into their hands, just like
right. Because once again,
they're gonna, what they already tried to do, why wouldn't they try to do it again with somebody else?
Right. Yeah, it didn't work the first time. So
and hopefully it doesn't work, and hopefully no one's going around there smash it. I'm gonna go down there and paint in the building before it's done. There's a bunch of murals going on. We're painting all these beautiful murals in there, so when they tear the building down itself again, there's going to be all these portraits of people that were in there, and there's all this artwork from people that were in there, and it's just going to make the place even more precious when they rip it down.
Please take videos and pictures of that, Dave. I want to see the murals.
I will.
I'd love to see that.
Absolutely will.
It's just it's a situation that didn't have to be so ugly. If IQHQ is going to spend, honestly, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. We've always said the developers should be doing more for the community. They could have moved the Sound Museum. It would have been about $1.5–2 million probably. That's my guess because I'm involved with some construction with another business. So I'm taking a wild guess here. Let's say it cost them $2 million to relocate the Sound Museum with moving trucks. They were going to build a state-of-the-art facility and all that. They just bought an $18 million building that they're going to fit out. If they're going to spend the $18 million, why not spend 20 and do both? Okay. And I had this conversation with Tony Desidoro, head of the ACA, all the way back last June. I was like, they should be doing both. They should be doing both. If they have to make some rehearsal spaces in Austin and Brighton, make them. That's fine, but don't destroy this business. That's the wrong thing. That's the injustice. Okay.
Exactly.
And some of the parties, I think, were just vindictive about it. And when given the opportunity to stand up, even the city, and say, hang on a second, we're glad you're talking about donating us a building, but there's risk here. You might not get approved. We might not get this building. It could take years. It's got to go through a city process. We said we want the Sound Museum preserved and relocated. This is an anchor institution. City runs on businesses with their employees, businesses with their customers. Okay, yeah, I don't think they, but then Kara's boyfriend wouldn't have our tenants.
Exactly.
It's like, it's hard to know if the tail wagged the horse or the horse wagged the tail. You know what I mean? Like, it starts to look like this was the plan, but really it's like the way it went, it became opportunistic for everybody and their friends. So again, nepotism reigns supreme. But I think it was always the plan to separate the sound. The city's plan was to preserve the Sound Museum and force this developer to do the right thing. But then their friends, Amy Bennett and Art Stays Here, ended up, like I said, committing this injustice. There's no way, and IQHQ should have been smarter. There's no way there should have been any negotiations going on that didn't have the Sound Museum at the table. There's no way they shouldn't have picked a group of 20 or 30 or 50 Sound Museum tenants through some random lottery, some fair way of actually getting representation of people who put their hand up and said, yeah, I want to be part of this. Okay. Instead, like the people on the IAG group, the community group, 2 of them were picked by Nick Greco, who is a manager at Studio 52. So for all the good he does in the world, he's their competitor. Okay. And then they had the tenants meeting and they had him speak at it. And like, how could you go speak at your competitor's customers meeting? That's just such a conflict of interest. So everybody involved was involved in these conflicts of interest all along the way. And nobody at any point said, not nobody, a bunch of us did, kept saying, wait a second, we got to work together. We got to work together. We can have the best of both worlds, but we're not going to get it unless we're united. We're not united, and that's what happened. Is it became a division of loyalty.
No, there was division through confusion.
Absolutely.
Because Desmonds weren't allowed to talk about stuff because they were under a non-disclosure act, so they couldn't really talk about things. And it's like, who am I to tell everybody all this stuff? No one's going to listen to just me. I'm like, I'm not going to these Zoom meetings.
They're not the only people.
I'm only seeing it from a musician and an artist who's spent my entire life trying to make Boston amazing, begging this city to give us some more investment, to give us some more chances to do things and ability to grow and be successful and then use that to help the kids with it and just bring up a whole more generations and generations of amazing Boston art and music.
It's gotta be
that's
free
what
enterprise.
I've been working for my entire life, and
Right.
I see the Desmonds have been there right with me doing that.
They're like the only rehearsal space operators around in Boston that actually
come to
are
my shows.
that
Exactly.
actually are musicians.
Exactly.
Okay? Because the guys who own Studio 52, I don't believe they're a group of musicians, okay? And the guys that run the record company, this is big nonprofit of city art people and stuff. They all got the high pro glow. The Desmonds are they're in the trenches.
Practiced by the hour.
They're in bands. The Bentmans been around forever. They're freaking legends, okay? They do this because they love music and they love musicians.
They go to the art shows. They go to the music shows.
What could be more necessary? O'Brien's work. You talk about the greats, the great, supporters of local music, and everyone talks about, Jimmy Harold on the Rat, or Chet Rooney, or all the Frank
Rouet.
and everybody. Okay, and the Desmonds, for 40 years they've been providing low cost rehearsal space. I mean, they are the longest running, and they were the largest rehearsal space in Boston, probably in all of New England. Okay, and now the clock is just ticking until their last building ends up, when the lease is up. Okay, the opportunity to save that business. Were they going to start over? They were going to give this to their kids. It was going to be their legacy. It was going to be a legacy for the city of Boston.
Business.
It was an anchor institution.
Can't be destroyed. It's so important.
It was so important.
It really is. I'm glad you guys are.
Our point of commerce as musicians are the clubs. But we wouldn't be able to play the clubs if we didn't have the rehearsal spaces.
If you have to be good to get into the clubs.
It's not just rehearsing. you write a song at home, whatever, you got a tune in your head, you go to your rehearsal space, you work it out with your band, you arrange it, you're sitting there at 3 a.m, you're listening to the other music, you're jamming with other people, you come up with these riffs, when I was at your space a couple weeks ago and I walked out, I came home, I had all these like riffs running through my head because it stretches your mind.
Here's the thing.
It's such an important creative environment. It's not just a box full of rooms.
Here's the
that can be
difference.
run
Here's the
by some
difference
city official.
Here's the difference of practicing in your basement. Because like I always used to move into like houses where I could practice because that was like, or I wouldn't move in. You know what I mean? And sometimes the neighbors would call, and sometimes they wouldn't. Most of the times I got away with it, but you're isolated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're so isolated, and that's okay. But not in the long run.
Yeah, it's like, great to warm up for a tour.
It's good to start maybe your band that way, or or get ready to record that way. Isolate yourself a little bit, but being in a community, like just like I said about the EMF building, when I stood in front of the mayor.
You know how many people I've met at that building? I mean, just
right.
It's
in one building.
It's amazing.
Right? Everybody, one building. Yeah. In one building, you have practice spaces where you get to go practice your craft and write songs, but you're also surrounded by all these other people that are doing the same thing. So you're bouncing these ideas and inspirations off each other all the time. And then you're a visual artist and you're listening to all this music in there and you're down there painting your stuff. And then you're inspired by the music. You're inspired by the other painters and artists in the building.
Right.
So in the same building, they had recording studios, they had record labels and a radio station. So literally in the same building, you could write a song.
The Desmonds
practice it.
They invested and built this stuff.
Get their advice. Yeah.
Right. The Desmonds invested
and built
that recording studio. They built that radio station. These weren't
go get it printed out on CD and bring it up to the radio station that they had, and you could play it and you could talk about it on the air. Like, what is more magic than that? And they
create a radio station.
Carmelita's got a comment. There's a group that does a lot for tenants specifically, who have been displaced or have problems with landlords. What is it? City of Berna, Vita Loca, I believe. I think I might have screwed up the name, but you may have heard the group. She says talk to Steve Meacham from that group. He knows how to organize. That may be an idea. I mean, they're tenant organizers that don't screw over small businesses.
I think bands should just
yeah, I guess that's the final thing. Like,
what they should
where
really
do we go?
What you really should do?
Everyone's house, let's write songs about her. Like, please help us out.
You want to
still got a chance.
Boycotting the Boston. You want to do the right thing. Go to SaveTheSoundMuseum.com. Get the email addresses and write freaking emails.
Yeah,
write emails, okay?
Absolutely.
You have to write the emails, okay? Boycotting and all that.
Well,
the only thing, and you got to talk to the press, and you got to call the Globe. You got to, you have to make more noise than them. Otherwise, they're not going to listen. They're not going to listen otherwise, okay? They're just sitting there publicly patting each other on the back, okay? We have to drown that out,
or call it out. We have to call it out.
Call it out.
Wait a minute.
You got to be loud.
Let us to the editor.
What's the celebration here? What are you actually celebrating? You destroyed the Sound Museum? Is that what you're celebrating? Yeah, I'm not celebrating that with
They're
you.
celebrating that they all got something.
I'm not going to celebrate
it's
that.
It's like, oh, yeah, I just got my friend a freaking $18 million building. Oh,
good
job.
I hate paying
Let's
rent.
get you a promotion.
I hate paying rent like most people hate paying rent, right? But I'd rather pay rent to someone that's sympathetic to my cause.
Right.
And understanding.
Right,
So
and the difference with
then just some
slide on
corporate guy that's just like, I just got this building for free, and I got $250,000 from the city to run it, and now I want to charge even more money than what they're coming from per square foot. I mean, I'm going to
it's
charge
like twice as expensive.
Instead of charging less,
it's like $900 for less space than we had.
Like, wait a minute, who's making the money? What was the actual intent of art slaves here? What was their intent? And was it actually to keep the building in Alston, or was it to line pockets? And whose pockets? I'm not a genius.
It's good to line your pockets, but if you can grease them on the way in, why not? Right?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
And on the way out too, man.
Yeah,
Remember,
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how this was just such a screwed up process, and it like I said, it's
They
like
won't get my money.
it's like you cross that line where you're like,
They'll never let me
we're
in
in a
there.
different
They'll never-
reality.
It's awesome. And
I
that's fine
wouldn't
with
go
me.
there. I wouldn't go there. I
wouldn't-
don't want
on
to be
principle,
their
I would
tenant.
never go there.
I'd rather practice in my basement. I swear to God.
All right, one at a time. I want to close this off because one thing. Katherine Desmond has another comment. She says March 7th, City Hall, 10:30 a.m. There's a meeting about this, about rehearsal spaces. They're gonna have public comment. You got to be there. If you could be there, I wish I could. Show up and speak. I mean, yeah.
There in person. It's 10:30 in the morning. It sucks, but you got to be there. If they don't see hundreds of bodies outside, they're not even gonna notice.
I think Tree's just got a new show date.
March 7th.
City Hall,
10:30.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got to
I'm
bring
gonna try to set the band
an
up.
army of people.
That would be awesome.
This land is your land until they can't.
You could do 1 minute this land.
It's the only thing politicians understand, right?
Yeah.
Is like strength in numbers, loud voices,
Absolutely.
lots of bodies,
And negative press.
lots of
They hate
signs,
negative
negative press. They hate negative press. They can't sustain it, you know, and if
Well, you know what? If they were right, then let's hear why they're right. And if they're wrong, they can still fix what's wrong. Because like there's a new building coming up, right? This building is getting gifted to the city. It should obviously be given to the Sound Museum to run.
had any of that
How
been
about that?
public or
How about
open,
How
we
about
would have had that
That
conversation.
sounds like a good idea.
And
I think that's a perfect. I think that's a
Isn't that
perfect
the
comment
intent?
to make on March
Yeah.
7th.
IQHQ's intent was to keep the Sound Museum in business.
our friend,
The city of Boston's intent was to keep the Sound Museum in business.
our friend,
So here's a building in Alston that we can keep the Sound Museum
Yeah.
in business.
at-
So together, let's keep the Sound Museum in business, because like that's our community. It's not just a business. We're all friends there. It's like,
right,
you know, it's
like I said,
it's a community spirit.
this was meant
We've done
to
this for
take away.
decades.
This was meant to take away their business. At that first community meeting, one of our friends, Gary, he said, we should. I had said we should work together, with the Desmonds, blah blah blah, and our stays here people. And he was like, they can get on board with our plan, blah blah blah. And so Gary called him on it and said, well, then get them in the Zoom. I know they're home waiting, and he was yelled at and told he could leave if he didn't like it. This wasn't a community organization. It wasn't an organization of the tenants of the thing. It was a agree with our plan or get the heck out of here club.
Oh, so when
Okay?
Gary asked,
He got yelled at.
The Sound Museum, the people actually that are running the place, that have all the skin in the game. That Amy's supposedly coming in here to help to get us to stay in Alston, right?
Yep.
Because we all want to stay in Alston, right?
Yep.
They can't be part of the conversation right away in the beginning.
Right.
Right away,
Absolutely.
they were told,
right.
nope, they can't be part of the.
And even though she said, "Oh, well, they can get on board with what we're doing," we couldn't have the discussion.
Well, what were they doing? Like, what were they doing?
They weren't doing anything then. They were still trying to just get organized, but they were like,
But-
nope, they can't even be part of the discussion. They're landlords. They're just in it for themselves. And it's like, oh my God, as a
What was
business
their
owner,
motivation?
that freaking pisses me off. Okay, I can tell you that.
Thank you guys so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
If
Thank
people
you
want
for
to
all you
follow,
do, Mike. It's so great. For years, you've just been a forum for people to be able to speak up and speak out. I'm so proud to be your friend, man. It's so awesome to see you doing this.
I'm proud to be you guys. I'm proud to be your
Thank you.
friends, both you and Dave and Scott. If
Thanks.
people want to reach out to you, how can they find you if they want to follow up with you?
SaveTheSoundMuseum.com. SaveTheSoundMuseum.com. Okay, everything's listed there. This is not run by the Desmonds. SaveTheSoundMuseum.com was made by our friend Frank, and it's independently run by tenants. And
That's right.
so like go to Save the Sound Museum. Dave printed up awesome shirts with
That's
the
right.
sticker with
Save the Sound Museum
looks
with-
like the police tape, the construction tape.
You can't go in here anymore.
logos. Yeah.
That's the idea.
Like do it. Go there. Make your voices heard. Okay, you have to. It's the only way.
It
Politics
really is the only way.
It's the new sports.
Now's
politics.
the time to
Now's
act.
you got to do it.
The iron is hot, so now there's time to strike. That's the only way you can shape the
And
metal.
It's the Sound Museum, and it's the future because it's what happens next. What happens when we lose the clubs? What happens when, we lose the next music stores? What happens when we lose, we keep losing our resources. And I don't understand. This is one part that I'll just part on this one thought is like, if art stays here, the whole thing when they started was that musicians and artists, we keep losing our resources. Why on God's green earth would they not support the preservation of the Sound Museum, the largest and longest lasting provider of these services? Okay, why would their mission not be to support them? Why would the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, whose sole purpose is to foster art and culture in the city of Boston, why would they not
Exclude them
with
from
their
the
original
conversation.
mandate? Why would they go through
Right
all
from the
that?
beginning.
You have to ask that very basic question.
Exclude them.
And then they excluded
From the
them from the conversation, and they
right from the
all ended
beginning.
up rewarded.
Yeah.
Why?
And the hundreds of tenants. The hundreds of tenants said they were with the Sound Museum. Like that should be
Hundreds of
enough.
hundreds.
That should be
Right.
enough. That's it.
Right, but
Done story.
nobody's seen that document
No,
because the city suppressed
that
it.
went right into the shredder,
Right,
the digital shredder.
Yep. It's it's not even included in the. I've got all the public.
Let's leave it on this note. Leave it on this note. Ready? Together we can make things better. Okay.
Yeah.
Together, if we can work right now and show solidarity within our ranks and with our allies and fans and all our friends, right? And the city will have to recognize how important we are. And we can always now we can put that down and use that for the future of being like, see, we're important. You recognize then, you recognize now. You make millions and billions of dollars selling this city as an arts and cultural hub. We are the arts and cultural hub, and you have to recognize that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
we have to make them recognize that.
We have
right?
to stand up
and
for
together,
injustice.
if we can make them recognize that, we can still save it now. We can help now. We can help later because it's not going to get any better.
Right.
So we have to organize. It's not going to get any better. No one's going to listen to just one or two of us. They're going to listen to all of us. So let's make them listen to all of us because we love each other. You have family here. That's how we do it.
You have to fight injustice now. Otherwise, it'll become too strong for you to fight it in the future. You have to. It's always now is the moment. You have to do it now. Okay, it has to be done now. We need to fight this. We need to make the noise now, or the moment's gonna pass us. This is one of those crucial turning points where either shit just gets privatized for the next funded by developers while the city takes over all the arts and culture, and it's all just corporate art and corporate rock and corporate music, and
it's like corporate cannabis. Cannabis. It's just it's so funny. I posted a story about Warren Lynch. I posted about Warren Lynch and Malden, and Katherine looked at it and said, "This is the same exact thing. The city is deciding who wins and who loses, who gets to stay in business. It's a scam."
Warren's biggest enemy is the guy who owns all the liquor stores in Malden. So, it's the same thing. It's that small group of people with the power,
so we have to stick together.
Cronyism and nepotism
Now's
reigns
the time to
supreme.
be
And
real allies.
Boston's legacy. Boston's got some great legacies. That is not one of them. And
March
I thought maybe
7th.
we was going to do something against
Let's
it.
make Boston awesome. Let's make
so.
We have to shame them. We have to shame them. It's the
Thank
only
you
way.
guys so much for coming on. Dave, Tree, Scott Matalon, March 7th. I hope people show up, especially the artists. Thank you guys so much for spending time with us tonight on this.
See you there.
Thank you.
We'll see you there, everybody. We're the Young Jerks. My name is Mike Crawford. I just wanted to just remind everyone to show up for this. March 7th. Show up 10:30. That's a good way to express it. You can also write letters to the local newspapers, the local editors. We're going to be doing a lot more in cannabis too. We got an awards event, a cannabis worker awards. Lots is happening on that. We're going to have some great announcements upcoming. Also, some awful stuff has been happening with big cannabis related to True Leaf and Cure Leaf. So much information is coming out. So we're definitely due to do some more of that cannabis worker content. I know people want that. They ask for it. Expect it upcoming. And hopefully we'll spend some more time on this as well. And hopefully it's a success. Like we really need to. I like what Dave said, and Scott, we got to do something about this. This is the opportunity. Opportunity does not happen like this. These guys know. They've been around 25 years. They know this is like a once in a lifetime. These next weeks matter. Do something about it. Mike Crawford, we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone, for listening, sharing, supporting, commenting. And thanks to Dave Tree from the band Tree and Scott Matalon. He's got a few bands. I know one of them is Matalon, also from Daisy Cutter. He may have some other projects. He's the guy from Stingray Body Art. Check them out, stingraybodyart.com. I want to thank both of those guys. Those guys are awesome for being on the show tonight. Young Jerks, we'll see you next time. Mike Crawford, check it out.